Welcome to the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast. I'm your host, Molly Watts. If you want to change your drinking habits and create a peaceful relationship with alcohol, you're in the right place. This podcast explores the strategies I use to overcome a lifetime of family alcohol abuse, more than 30 years of anxiety and worry about my own drinking, and what felt like an unbreakable daily drinking habit. Becoming an alcohol minimalist means removing excess alcohol from your life so it doesn't remove you from life. It means being able to take alcohol or leave it without feeling deprived. It means to live peacefully, being able to enjoy a glass of wine without feeling guilty and without needing to finish the bottle. With science on our side, we'll shatter your past patterns and eliminate your excuses. Changing your relationship with alcohol is possible. I'm here to help you do it. Let's start now. Well, hello and welcome or welcome back to the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast. With me, your host, Molly Watts, coming to you from, it is a summery Oregon right now. Yes, that's right, summery. Summery, not like summary as in a shortened description of something, not a summary, but a summary, as in it's very summery. It's very warm. It's very sunny. It's a little humid, which is unusual, and it's been pretty darn hot. Got to be honest. The last couple of days, we had that rain little piece last week you heard me talk about, and now it's back to the sunshine. But what's great is that at nighttime, it cools down, and we have had our window wide open at nighttime, and it's just I got to tell you, I just love it. It's so enjoyable. So, it's a summery, beautiful time to be in Oregon right now. I always say it, if you haven't come visited the Pacific Northwest, this is the time to do it. So head our way and check it on out. Come see what I talk all about every time at the beginning of the podcast. Hey, this is the beginning of our summer content series. During August, I like to share other people's work that I listen to that have been guests of the show or just have some compelling content that I think is really valuable, either with regards to alcohol specifically or behavior change in general. Sometimes it may not sound like something that has to do with either of that, but it may have something to do with, weight loss or something like that. But if you apply the same principles that I talk to you about, if you take out what you hear and don't apply it to whatever subject matter you're hearing it about from these content providers and apply it to your efforts in terms of changing your relationship with alcohol, it makes a whole lot of sense. And I just love doing this. I love having this opportunity to share with you people that I really love listening to. Podcasts, I am a podcaster, and podcasts are my preferred learning style. They are where I hear my most. I just enjoy it. I love audiobooks. I love audio. And our very first guest is my good friend and our friend of the show, Monica Reinagel. If you're not familiar with Monica, first of all, she is like one of the OG podcasters. Monica has been doing the Nutrition Diva podcast for more than 15 years, which, if you know anything about podcasting, that means she has been doing podcasting since before many of us even knew that, what a podcast ever was or was going to be. She has been doing that show for so long. She is such a consummate pro, and she is also the host of the Change Academy podcast. And this show that I am sharing with you, this content that I'm sharing with you, comes from the Change Academy podcast. And this episode is called How We Cheat Ourselves Out of the Future We Dream of. And I love this episode. It really resonates with me because I talk all the time about how sustainable change means that we have to be consistent, and consistency starts by building a habit, slowly meeting ourselves where we're at, but then continuing, right? We don't get to be an alcohol minimalist in the future if we aren't becoming an alcohol minimalist now and taking action and starting now. is how you get to be someone that is looking back on your life and realizing that you have led an alcohol minimalist lifestyle. You are really going to love listening to Monica. I love listening to Monica, and you can check it out at changeacademypodcast.com. She always has a lab experiment that you do, an exercise every single episode. Such valuable tools to change any behavior that isn't serving you. And certainly, if you want to apply it to changing your relationship with alcohol, you're really going to get a lot out of it. Here is my friend Monica Reinagel and the Change Academy podcast.
I think a lot of us have a vision of ourselves or our lives, let's say 10 or 20 years from now, and everything that we will for sure have achieved or created or solved by then. But what we don't always realize is that this future is being created right now, every single day. The actions that we do or do not take today, the choices we make no mistake, they are creating that future, for better or worse. So let's make sure that future you doesn't look back at today's choices with regret.
All right, everyone, take your seats or lace up your sneaks. We're about to get started.
Welcome to the Change Academy podcast. I'm your host, Monica Reinagel, and in this show, we talk about what it takes to create healthier mindsets and habits in our own lives, as well as how we can create healthier communities and workplaces. Whether you're working on your own health and well-being or promoting healthy behaviors is your job, we're going to talk about what works, what's hard, what's needed, and what's next. Let's jump in. I'm going to go out on a very short limb here and assume that pretty much everyone listening to this podcast is working on some sort of goals or aspirations, some vision of a future life that's just a little bit better, maybe a bit healthier, less stressed, more content, a future in which we've achieved certain goals or milestones. And we have every intention of embracing the healthy habits or whatever actions are going to help us reach those goals. We're going to start or get back to those very soon. The problem is that soon somehow never comes. My younger sister once said to me, I've always pictured myself as that 65-year-old woman who does yoga every day. And it recently occurred to me that the only way that's going to happen is if I start right now being a 45-year-old woman who does yoga every day. Can you relate? I know I can. I see my future self behaving in a certain way, living a certain kind of life, having solved certain challenges. But when exactly will I start doing those things and conquering those challenges? How many days before that mythical future arrives are those habits going to suddenly emerge? I think some of this is a sort of cognitive distortion that more is going to be possible in the future than is possible right now. For example, the best way to get me to agree to do something difficult is just to ask me 6 to 12 months in advance, because from that distance, it seems like no problem to commit to a big, difficult project. But I can guarantee you that when it comes time to actually start working on that big project, at least part of me is going to wonder how I ever thought I'd be able to do that big thing on top of everything else that needs to be done. From that distance of several months or a year away, I can imagine the satisfaction or the reward of having done that work, having accomplished the thing, but I'm not very tuned into the reality of what it will actually require of me. I'll think about that when I get closer, and it'll be fine. If you fall into this type of thinking too, you're in very good company. We can so clearly imagine the payoff, but not so clearly the effort required to get there. We see ourselves crossing that finish line of the race. We do not see, in our mind's eye, the daily training that this is going to require. Or if we do, it's one of those sped up Rocky-style training montages with an awesome soundtrack. So when we do really get into the nitty-gritty, the grind of it, we find ourselves delaying, deferring. We look for something to distract us. We make excuses, which, by the way, doesn't feel as good as we think it does. There is not much relief when we let ourselves off the hook. Or what relief there is very, very short-lived. Really, it's stressful. And when I talk about the effort required to get there, I'm not only talking about work, whether that's research or writing or digging or running or practicing or whatever. I'm also talking about the discomfort that might be involved in developing new ways of thinking or doing. The discomfort of not knowing exactly what we're doing or not yet being very good at it. We avoid that. And therefore, our future, in which we have accomplished or achieved or become the thing that we imagine, never gets much closer. I think we're also prone to fantasizing that progress is going to be more possible in the future because other things will not be in the way. We won't be as busy. We'll have more control over our circumstances or our environment. I was so proud of one of our Way Less members this week when she realized that she had finally stopped allowing external things like being on vacation or having house guests or a sick parent or a work project. When she stopped allowing those things to be the reasons that she couldn't make better choices about what she was eating or her movement practice. She had started to see them simply as the obstacles that needed to be worked around or solved for. So instead of waiting for them to recede, she pulled on her waders and she waded in. And I was so happy for her when she got there because, of course, that time when there won't be any obstacles, when nothing will be in the way, that time will never arrive. But now she doesn't need it to, because she's learning skills that allow her to thrive and progress in that very messy present that we all inhabit, as opposed to some mythically tidy future. You know, a lot of the people that I work with fall between the ages of about 40 and 60, give or take. And so many of us, are starting to see a time in their future when they won't be working all the time. And they have this vision of themselves being these fit and healthy super seniors that can enjoy this really active retirement or a second career or time with their friends and their family. I have to say that many of them who are holding this vision of their fit and healthy golden years are, truth be told, not particularly fit and healthy middle-aged people right now. So this isn't just a matter of wanting to maintain the status quo or to hang on to their health as they navigate older age. They actually want to create a future that's substantially different from their current reality. Now, I know a cynic would look at that and think, well, that's totally unrealistic. But I know for a fact that it is not unrealistic. You can reinvent your lifestyle, embrace new habits, refurbish your health at any age. And having a clear vision of what it is that you want to create and knowing why it's important to you, everything that we talked about in our recent episode on finding your why, all of that is necessary. It's just not sufficient. You still have to do the daily work. And my point today is simply to remind you that that daily work really does need to start today.
Hey, it's Molly, and I just want to talk with you for a minute about Sunnyside. I know I talk about Sunnyside and have been talking about Sunnyside for, 2 years now. And I want to let you know that that is because of not only the results that I see my clients get, but because I know the people at Sunnyside and I know how committed they are to making a product that really delivers, not only in terms of results, but in terms of user experience. They recently launched an Android version of the Sunnyside app, and inside the app, there's new upgrades and ways to support you that really are defined by the user experience. And that is just something that I really appreciate about them. I know you can trust who they are as a company, and that's really important to me. I would love for you to check it out. Go to sunnyside.co/Molly to get started with a 15-day free trial today.
About a year ago, in episode number 106, I invited listeners to send me an email answering a couple of questions. The first one was, tell me what it is that you want to create or achieve. And the second question was, tell me how long you've wanted to create that. And I have to tell you, most of you who emailed me in response to that episode responded in time spans of at least a decade. That's how long you had wanted to create the thing. And that was a little heartbreaking. We just don't connect the dots between that future that we dream about and what we do or don't do today. We're just not translating that very heartfelt desire for that future reality into concrete, consistent action in our daily lives. And of course, you know what that means. It means that unless something changes, there's a really good chance that we're not actually going to get there, that our future is not going to be what we dream for ourselves. But that's because of what we're not doing right now. I've also talked in previous episodes about the emotional costs of carrying around an unmet goal. And I'll put links to all of these previous episodes in the show notes if you want to go back. But there are usually other even more concrete costs to those deferred goals. There may be financial costs to not taking care of ourselves, whether that's not taking care of our financial selves by putting money away, by meeting our savings goals, or it could be financial costs in the form of healthcare expenses because we haven't taken good care of our health. And there are often opportunity costs, those things that you may not be able to experience or do because this other work remains undone. And I think it's important to bring this to light, even though it may be a little bit uncomfortable to think about, because to a great extent, those costs are avoidable. So I want to ask you, are the choices that you're making today, literally today, and that you're making most days, are they aligned with the vision that you have of your future? And if they aren't, why aren't they? Are you maybe allowing your current circumstances to be an excuse? And do you need instead to see that these are not temporary disruptions? These are the fabric of your life. This is the field that the game of your life is going to be played on. Often, we also need to stop putting other people's needs before our own. Because remember, as we say a lot, every time we say yes to something, we are also saying no to something else. And often, saying yes to other people means saying no to our own priorities. Are there places in your personal or your professional life where this regularly happens? Are other people's priorities going to be the thing that prevents you from creating the future that you want to create? You have the right to make that choice, but it should be a conscious decision. You need to know that you will be living in a future that other people's priorities created for you. I know this can be hard to hear, and if you recognize some of the things that I'm outlining here, also know that this is totally normal. I struggle with these things too. But as I said, today, I'm here to remind you and to remind myself that the future, your future, is being created today, whether by positive action, negative actions, or inaction. And if today's actions are not leading to the future that you're dreaming of, then today really is the best day to start making that vision a reality. Now, perhaps you're not sure exactly what action you could or should take today, what the first step toward your vision of the future is. I get that. But you know what? One great way to get more clarity on that is to simply take a step in any direction. Sometimes we are paralyzed because we're not sure what to do, but action is the thing that can bring us more clarity. Every action doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't even need to be successful in order to move you in the right direction. Now, of course, this is one of the benefits of working with a coach or in a community or in some sort of structured program, because instead of just spinning around where to start or what to do, you do have someone or something suggesting where to put your foot next. Not necessarily charting out the entire journey for you, but helping you blaze your own trail. That's what I do, for example, in the Way Less program. I help people start taking the actions and creating the lifestyle that eventually allow them to arrive at that future that they're dreaming of, that future in which they are able to weigh less without dieting. So what we do really doesn't look like a typical diet or weight loss program, because my goal really isn't to teach people how to lose weight. Most of you already know how to do that. My goal really is to help people create that future that they want to live in. And quite honestly, it often ends up being about a lot more than just weight management, which is part of what makes it so magical. If you'd like to join us, you can learn more at wayless.life/enroll. And if you're not listening to this episode in real time, no worries, because the program is open for enrollment on an ongoing basis. But if you are listening in real time, we do have a new cohort of people that have started within the last couple of weeks. So if you'd like to be part of that new start energy, that's happening now. In addition, whatever your vision, whatever your goals, I hope this podcast can continue to support you in your progress toward those, starting today.
Okay, was that just not awesome to listen to? Monica was talking about not just having a goal around weight loss, but actually being someone who weighs less. I think that's so appropriate for being an alcohol minimalist, right? So many people get caught up in the tracking of the drinks and the tracking of the numbers and not really understanding how it feels to be someone who actually desires alcohol less, who wants to drink less naturally, and where that comes from in terms of our beliefs around alcohol. And so why it's not just all about tracking a number of drinks, but we have to understand the why and how the habit is working in your life. I heard a ton in this episode that I can apply to changing my relationship with alcohol. I'm going to keep working on changing and have been working on changing my relationship with food as well. But key takeaways: stop waiting for the perfect time and start today. Remember, obstacles and challenges are a part of life. They are not necessarily temporary disruptions. They are just a part of the process. Struggle is a part of the process. Make sure that you are committing to taking action, even if you don't know how you're going to get it done, even if you're not certain it's going to work for you. Action often leads to clarity. Be willing to tolerate discomfort when you are learning these new skills, and don't just avoid things, because that will derail progress, right? And it's important not to just visualize your end goal, but also focus on the daily actions, the daily consistency, building up a skill set, meeting yourself where you are, looking for those opportunities for 1% continuous improvement, and keep going. Focus on that effort every day so that you can achieve your lifelong goal of being an alcohol minimalist. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for hearing from my friend Monica Reinagel. Check out the Change Academy podcast, and I will see you all next week. Hey, thanks for listening to the Alcohol Minimalist podcast. Take something you learned from this week's episode and put it into action. changing your drinking habits and creating a peaceful relationship with alcohol is 100% possible. You can stop worrying, stop feeling guilty about overdrinking, and become someone who desires alcohol less. I work with people in 3 ways. You can learn about them over at www.mollywatts.com/workwithme. Or better yet, reach out to me directly. It's molly@mollywatts.com. We'll jump on a call and discuss what's best for you. This podcast is really just the beginning of our conversation. Let's keep it going.